We are now live.
Stuti everyone, and welcome back to the weekly study group with Venerable Dhamma. Today we will continue with our study of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta and the commentary by the late Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. And before we start with reading the text, we will take together the 5 precepts. And if you have, if you're taking the 8 precepts, you can just meditate along, and we will read it, we will show it on screen, and you can recite it with us even if you're not audible. So everyone can keep themselves muted, but you can just pretend like you're here and take the 5 precepts with us. So is there anyone in the Discord group who would like to lead the precepts for us today?
I would like to.
Thank you, Sanda. If you're ready, you can start.
Ahang bante tisaranena saha pancha silani yachami. Dutiyampi ahang bante tisaranena saha pancha silani yachami. Tatiyampi ahang bante tisaranena saha pancha silani yachami.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tisarnagamanang nithitang.
Ama bante.
Parnatipata Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinna dana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Adinna dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kamesu Miccācara Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Kamesu miccācara veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musavada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Musawada Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Sura Meraya Majjapamadatthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Sura Meraya Majjapamadatthana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami.
Imani pancha sikkhapadani silena sugating yanti silena bhoga sampada silena nibuting yanti tasma silang visodhaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, before we read, everyone in the Discord who still isn't on the stage and who's part of the reading group, normally you can send a request so we can move you up here. And about the reading, please remember we read about 2 paragraphs each, depending on how long it is. And we read slowly and take a pause between each paragraph to process what we have read and leave some space for questions or explanations. We are currently at the title Extreme Austerity is a Form of Self-Mortification. And Subitsu, would you be able to start for us today?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Extreme austerity is a form of self-mortification. The 5th week was spent under the goat herd, Ajapala Banyan tree, and while there, he reflected on his abandonment of the austerity practices. Delivered am I from the austerity practices which cause physical pain and suffering. It is well that I'm delivered of that unprofitable practice of austerity. How delightful it is to be liberated and have gained enlightenment.
So this is the 5th week after enlightenment. The Buddha, the Bodhisattva had sat under the Bodhi tree, just for recap, and became a Buddha. And we've already talked about that first period. This is in the 5th week. Again, there are 7 weeks the Buddha spent in that area. The first was under the first week he just sat in under the Bodhi tree. The 2nd week he stood and looked at the Bodhi tree. And the 3rd week he walked back and forth between the place where he looked at the Bodhi tree and the Bodhi tree. And so in India you can see that place still, where they created sculptures of lotus flowers to represent his footsteps. The 4th, he contemplated the Abhidhamma for a week. And the 5th, Ajapala, under the Ajapala banyan tree. 6th was with Muchalinda. And the 7th in the Rajayatana tree. Muchalinda was the serpent, the Naga. But again, the content of this discourse begins with the discussion of the austerities, so that's why he's talking about this. Just if you've been away or forgotten where we are, we're talking about the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, and the first part is about the negative, the fault of austerity. And so that's why he's talking about it here.
Mara, who was closely following every thought and action of the Buddha, ever alert to accuse him of any lapses, immediately addressed the Buddha. Apart from the austerity practices, there is no way to purify beings. Gautama has deviated from the path of purity. While still defiled, he wrongly believes he has achieved purity.
The Buddha replied, all the extreme practices of austerity employed with a view to achieve the deathless, the immortal state, are useless, unprofitable, much as the cars, pedals, and pushing poles are useless on the land, on the sandbanks. Fully convinced that they are unprofitable, I have abandoned all forms of self-mortification.
Was that meant to be oars, paddles, and pushing poles? Like in reference to a
Probably.
raft?
Yeah. Paddles, not pedals.
Okay, so in general, sea vehicles that are used on the sea. Okay. The commentary also mentions that extreme practices such as scanty diet, scanty clothing constitute self-torture. That extreme austerity is a form of self-mortification should be carefully noted here for better comprehension of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta when we deal with it.
So this is a issue with Buddhists who, well, they may not, for some Buddhists who, well, they may not fully engage in fasting or abstaining from food, will eat insufficient nourishment. And by insufficient means that which leads to the deterioration of the body. This happens. There are monks that this happens to. There are lay people as well. I mean, I guess more common with monks. But you do have cases where it leads to health issues. I heard of a monk who said, stayed with a monk who told me that when he gave rise to lustful thoughts, he would abstain from eating for that day. If he found himself with lust, he just wouldn't eat for that day. and he said that he ended up in the hospital and with chronic stomach problems or some kind of digestive problems as a result. It didn't actually. It isn't useful. Doesn't bring about the result that you think. Doesn't help you. Unfortunately, if only it were that easy. But it's not that easy.
Venerable Siri Chando, are you able to continue for us?
Considering the question of giving the first sermon, having spent 7 days at each at tree on the 50th day, seated under the tree, he considered, who would quickly comprehend the Dhamma. Then it occurred to him, skilled and intelligent. He has long been a person having but little dust
Can't
of
understand what you're
defilement in the
saying.
eye of wisdom. What if I teach the doctrine?
I think your internet has problems.
No, nothing's coming through.
Something's coming through. It's just not very
It surely
intelligible.
does. Okay. Skip me. You can skip me, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Sanda, you can please repeat just the same paragraph.
Yes, sure. Having spent 7 days each at 7 different places, he went back to the goat herd's banyan tree on the 50th day. Seated under the tree, he considered, to whom had I best teach the doctrine first? Who would quickly comprehend the Dhamma? Then it occurred to him, there is Alara Kalama, who is learned, skilled, and intelligent. He has long been a person having but little dust of defilement in the eye of the wisdom. What if I teach the doctrine to Alara Kalama first? He would quickly comprehend this Dhamma. It is significant that the Buddha had tried to seek out first someone who would understand his teaching quickly. It is of utmost importance to inaugurate new meditation centers with devotees who are endowed with faith, zeal, industry, mindfulness, and intelligence. Only such devotees as are in possession of these virtues can achieve penetrative insight quickly and become shining examples for others to follow. Devotees lacking in faith, zeal, industry, mindfulness, and intelligence, or enfeebled in mind and body through old age, can hardly be source of inspiration to others.
Julie, can you continue, please?
When we first launched on teaching the Satipatthana Vipassana meditation, we were fortunate in being able to start off with 3 person, my relatives actually, endowed with unusual faculties. They acquired the knowledge of awareness of arising and passing away, Udaya Bhaya Jnana, within 3 days of practice, and were overjoyed with seeing lights and visions accompanied by feelings of rapture and bliss. Such speedy attainments of results have been responsible for the worldwide acceptance and dissemination of the Mahasi Vipassana meditation technique.
So what he's referring to there is actually what are called the upakilesa, vipassana upakilesa. They're not the result that we're looking for, but they're a good sign in one sense. Though if you start to think of them as a good sign, it's usually a problem. So you should be clear that even though it's a sign that you're practicing correctly, in and of themselves, they are a distraction and can be an obstacle. Upakilesa means something like imperfection, or literally that which can defile or sully your practice. So it's imperfect as a result of not noting these things. They're the kinds of things that create cracks in your mindfulness, because when you see bright lights, rather than noting them as seeing, you're quite likely to be pleased by them and distracted by them as a result. It's simple. There's nothing magical or special about why they are a problem. They're just a problem because you stop being mindful of them. If you're mindful of them, great. Usually a good sign, a sign that you're cultivating concentration, that your mind is sorting itself out and so on. If you feel rapture and bliss, same thing. I mean, it's a good sign, right? But dangerous. I mean, problematic in that it's quite common for people who experience these things to be distracted by them. So one of the first jobs as a teacher is to catch this and to have people note the good things as well as the bad. It's easier to get people to note the bad things, the unpleasant things.
Bante, the seeing the lights and visions, is that just a in the beginning thing, or that can happen to some meditators throughout?
It usually doesn't happen as much as later on. It's more of a beginner thing. It often comes for people who have a background in samatha practice. So because if they take up solely practice of vipassana, they're not developing those qualities anymore. It happens for people who have a background either in this life or past lives in samatha practice. Yeah, it doesn't persist usually. But what he's talking about, Udayabhaya Jnana, it also isn't Udayabhaya Jnana. It's what you could say prevents one from really clearly experiencing Udayabhaya Jnana. It's the sorts of things that can prevent seeing Udayabhaya Jnana. So it arises as one approaches Udayabhaya Jnana, but prevents clear seeing of Udayabhaya Jnana. That's what he's talking about there. So it's not that this is seeing arising and ceasing, it's that when your mind gets quiet enough to see the arising and ceasing, it also gets quiet enough for these things to arise. And if you don't note them, you won't be able to see. It's called Taruna, and Balava is the Taruna means weak Udayabhaya Jnana, and Balava is, I think it's Balava, means strong Udayabhaya Jnana. So it's separated into two parts. It's weak if you won't be able to clearly see arising and ceasing if you're not mindful of these things when they arise.
Thus, it was that the Buddha thought of teaching his first sermon to someone who would quickly grasp it, and when he considered Alara Kalama, a deity addressed him, Lord Alara Kalama had passed away 7 days ago. Then knowledge and vision arose to the Buddha that Alara had indeed passed away 7 days ago, and had, by virtue of his jhanic achievements, attained the sphere of nothingness. Akinchanya Tana Brahma plane, the state of immateriality.
Ricardo? We're not able to hear you. Okay, maybe try to work it out and we can go on to you, Edith. You can continue.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
Missing the path and fruition by 7 days. Great is the loss to Alara of Kalama family, bemoaned by the Buddha. Alara was developed enough to readily understand. Had he heard the teaching of the Buddha, he could have gained the path and attained arahantship instantly. But his early death had deprived him of this opportunity. In the sphere of nothingness, where only mental states exist without any forms, he could not have benefited even if the Buddha had gone there and taught him the Dhamma. The lifespan in the sphere of nothingness is also very long, being 60,000 world cycles. After expiry there, he would appear again in the human world but would miss the teaching of the Buddhas. Thus, as a common worldling, he would do the rounds of existence, sometimes sinking to the nether world to face great sufferings. Thus, the Buddha bemoaned that the loss to Alara was very great.
Yeah, don't do those practices. Don't set your sights on those practices. If they arise during Buddhist practice, somehow it's not a problem because you have your sights set on something better, but you set your sights on those things. It's not like being reborn in heaven. Being reborn in heaven is generally a positive thing because, there are many Buddhists in heaven at the moment, but also because it's very easy to practice meditation in heaven if you're of that sort of mind. Some people say that being born in heaven is not good. They've said that being born a human is the best, and I don't think that it holds up. I don't think that holds up under scrutiny. If you look at the records, those devas that became enlightened are far more numerous than the humans that became enlightened. We just don't hear much about their stories because the stories are mostly focused on humans. But being born as a deva is not something you should be concerned about. Certainly you shouldn't take that as your goal because you're more likely then to be distracted by the pleasure of it. But being born as a deva is a really beneficial thing, especially at this time when there are so many Buddhists up in heaven, in the many heavens. But being born in the Brahma realms is hit or miss. Some of the Arupa Brahma realms, it seems it's impossible to practice the Buddhist teaching there.
Why wasn't the Buddha born as a deva, you think, Bhante?
It's a good question. Well, Buddha has to be born as a human. Why is that? I think probably the answer people would give is the ability to see suffering, which is why people talk about being born a human as being better. I don't think that holds up, though. Yeah, the problem with heaven is if you don't have the Buddha's teaching, you're unlikely to realize it for yourself. You're more likely to realize it for yourself as a human because you can see the suffering. But when you have the Buddha's teaching, heaven appears to be a very valid place to practice it.
Thank you, Bhante. And what
I don't have any. I'm just going by my words. There might be something to the idea that being a human is. There are people who've argued with me. I've had people argue with me and say, no, you're wrong. I'm just going by, well, it seems reasonable to me, but it's also what there was one, Lumpo Chodo, one of Ajahn Tong's teachers, said this. He said, don't be reborn a human. Be born in heaven, that's where all the Buddhists are.
Is the human realm the lowest on which a human can start on the path?
Yeah, you can't start as an animal. I mean, depends what you mean by start. You can't become a sotapanna as an animal, obviously, or in any of the lower realms.
Do we know what happened to, or what will happen to Alara? Is there any
Well, Mahasi
hint?
says there, no?
No, I mean, if he still has a chance later after his existence in the Brahma realm.
There's a chance, like anyone else does. And more than anyone else, because he has some impressive qualities of mind, but they're dissociated from wisdom. They don't have anything to do with seeing the nature of reality. Which is probably surprised, the idea that one can be so spiritually advanced and have it completely dissociated from reality, or truth, or wisdom. It's there's a mistaking of this sort of practice with wisdom, where people believe that these sorts of people who have these strong states of concentration are wise as a result, and it's not necessarily the case. There's some kind of wisdom that's called some kind of wisdom that's associated with samatha practice, but it's not wisdom that frees you from suffering. It's not wisdom about reality. It's wisdom about it's the knowledge or the proficiency in training the mind, which is impressive. There's no question about how impressive it is for people to attain these states. It means they haven't seen the three characteristics, really.
Yes, I was kind of surprised of the sentence earlier, which Mahasi says that such speedy attainments of results have been responsible for the worldwide acceptance and dissemination of the Mahasi Vipassana meditation technique. So these were half of it, the obstacles basically of insight, and half was the Udayabhaya Jnana. So I
don't think he's specifically referring to those states. He's using them as an example, and he's saying that the quickness with which they got to that state was a part of what people are impressed by. I mean, there are people, I've heard people say in the Goenka group, I think Goenka himself or some Goenka teacher said something like, these Tibetan monks came to practice his teaching, and after they saw these lights and colors, they were so shocked. And they said, we've been practicing for years to get these colors, and here in just a few days we've been seeing these lights and colors and pictures.
Yeah, they are considered good signs, very good signs.
Yeah. But as soon as you consider them as a good sign, it's generally problematic.
Tricky. Okay, I'll continue then. It is possible in the present times that there are people deserving of higher attainments passing away without opportunity of hearing the Satipatthana meditation practice as expounded by us, or having heard the Dhamma thus taught, not yet made the effort to put it into practice. The good people assembled here now, hearing what we are teaching, should seek carefully that such rare opportunities for their upliftment be not thrown away.
If you haven't done the at-home course, you should start by doing our at-home course. Same goes with this. You're here to learn about these teachings, but if you don't take the opportunity, just hearing them isn't going to be enough. You could die without ever benefiting from them.
Zach?
Missing the great chance by one night. Then the Buddha thought of teaching the first sermon to Uddaka, son, pupil of the great sage Rama. Again, a deity addressed the Buddha. Lord Uddaka Brahmaputta had passed away last night. The knowledge and vision arose to the Buddha that the hermit Uddaka had indeed died last night in the first watch, and by virtue of his jhanic achievements, had attained the state of neither perception nor non-perception. Dewa Sanayan Yatana Brahma plane. This sphere is also a state of immateriality, a formless state, and its lifespan extends to 84,000 world cycles. This is the noblest, the loftiest of the 31 planes of existence. But the Dhamma cannot be heard there. On appearing again in the human world, Brahmaputta was already so highly developed that he could instantly attain arhatship if he could but listen to the Dhamma. But he would get no such opportunity again, having missed it by dying one night too early. The Buddha was thus moved again to utter in pity, "Great is the loss to the hermit Uddaka, the son pupil of the great sage Rama."
I think this is a good contrast to when we think how bad we have it because the Buddha passed away 2000 years ago. But there we have an example who had it even worse. I mean, it sounds terrible to me.
Yeah, we're still very lucky. We have the Buddha's teaching is still here. We still have met with the Buddha's teaching in a way that these guys never did.
But at the same time, it's not enough. Like, it's here to many people, not just us. And if you don't practice it, and if you don't put it in the effort, and so on and so on, like, it's, I mean, I don't see like it's beautiful to being born to the highest, more loftiest Brahma plane, but
Okay, but go ahead.
yeah, so I'm just saying that yeah, it's here, the Dhamma is here, and it's understandable and all that, but if you don't have the faculties, you won't understand it, and you won't practice it, and you won't anything. It doesn't mean anything. If the Dharma is here, you have to be ready to, no?
I don't think it does. I don't think it doesn't mean anything. I mean, consider these guys never had the opportunity to even hear the Buddha's teaching, to ever appreciate the arising of the Buddha, to have any connection with the Buddha's teaching whatsoever. They're missing the very basic knowledge of Buddhism, of the existence of the Dhamma. They missed that. This guy missed it by one night. So people here, people in this time often have the seed planted in them. Certainly there's people who never have the seed planted in them, or are antipathetic, are have dislike of the Buddha's teaching. And as a result, they're not going to benefit from it. But those who even come and appreciate, are interested in the Buddha's teaching, that is planting a seed that these guys with their great attainments never got and never will get, because by the time they come back to the realm where they're able to even come in contact with other beings, the Buddha's teaching will be long gone.
Yeah, you could even argue that even someone who heard a little bit, just a little bit of the Satipatthana Sutta or the basics, not even in a Buddhist context, could be better off than Alara or Uddaka.
Yeah, I mean, Buddhism has changed the discourse, global discourse. The word mindfulness is probably mostly used today because of the Buddha. And so even having that has changed people. Meditation has been taken up more as a result of the Buddha. More, I mean, even outside of Buddhist circles. So all of this we have, the world has changed as a result of the Buddha. Obviously, there's a lot of bad in the world as well, more than probably in the Buddha's time even, but we also have this, have made contact with something, made contact with Buddhism. And anyone who's here today listening to this or taking part in this group, reading the Mahasi Sayadaw's text, Mahasi Sayadaw's writings, has a real head start. Has gotten something precious, very precious, that Uddaka and Alara will never get. But yes, if people don't put it into practice, it's not going to be of great benefit, at least not in this life. And the future is still uncertain, but there is still benefit to it all, of course.
Then the Buddha thought again to whom he should give his first sermon. And a group of 5 bhikkhus appeared in his divine vision, and he saw them living then in the deer sanctuary in the township of Benares.
Varanasi. Benares, I think in the time of Mahasi, it was still called Benares, like that was what the British called it, I guess. I can't remember the history, but it's called Varanasi again, which is what it was called in the Buddhist time.
Mila?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Just to double check, we're on the next paragraph. Journey to give the first sermon.
Yes.
Sorry, thank you. Journey to give the first sermon. There the Blessed One set out to go. Some previous enlightened ones had made the same journey by means of miracles. Our Lord Gautama Buddha, however, proceeded on foot for the purpose of meeting on the way with the naked ascetic Upaka, to whom he had something to impart. The Buddha Vamsa commentary and the Jataka commentary state that the Blessed One started on the journey on the full moon of Waso. But as the deer sanctuary, Benares, was 18 yojanas, 142 miles, away from the Bo tree, and as the Blessed One was making the journey on foot, the distance could not have been covered in one day unless done miraculously. It would be appropriate, therefore, if we fixed the starting date on the 6th waxing of Waso.
I guess that's a salha. I don't know what waso is, but waso. So what he's saying, I guess that's wasa, which is the rains. I don't know. It's Burmese, but why he says one day must mean that it's a salaha, because he arrives in the deer park on the full moon of a salha. And because he's taken 49 days after the full moon in Visakha, you do the math, he's saying the 6th, which is 30. I don't know how it works.
Sibitsu?
Meeting with Upaka, the naked ascetic. The Blessed One had not gone far from the Bodhi tree, the way to Gaya, 6 miles, when he came upon the naked ascetic Upaka, a disciple of the great leader Nataputta of the naked sect, who, on seeing the Blessed One, addressed him, "Your countenance, friend, is clear and serene. Your complexion is pure and bright. In whose name have you gone forth? Who is your teacher? Of whose teaching do you profess?" The Blessed One replied, "Saba Bibu Saba Widu Amasami Sabesu Damesu Anupalito Sabinjo Tanha Kaye Wimuto Sayang Apinyaya Kamudisayang. I am one."
And that Pali's not very good. There's
Sorry
a lot
about
of
that.
errors in that Pali. No, it's written wrong. There's errors in the Pali there. You did fine.
The translation is, "I am one who has overcome all. While common worldlings are affected by what is seen or heard, ending up in suffering, the Blessed One transcends all and remains serene, countenance clear."
The Upaka becomes an anagami later on. His story is that he later falls in love with a woman, gets married, and has a terrible time with it, and eventually goes to see the Buddha and leaves home again and becomes a monk and becomes an anagami.
Bante, why is this meeting important?
The commentaries say it is a wasana. It's Uddaka had the wasana to be taught that, so it just had to happen that way. It was just the way it went because of his something he had done in a past life. But was able to see these sorts of things and appreciate what was going to happen.
May have gotten lost, so correct me, but I'll just read. Who knows all? I am detached from all things. Having abandoned everything, obtained emancipation by the destruction of desire. Having by myself gained knowledge, whom should I call my master?
Did you not hear what I said there? Are you not hearing me?
I do.
Okay, what happened?
Sorry.
Was it related to me?
No, you said something about something getting lost. I just wondered, you can hear me, right?
Yes, no, I thought I was lost in the text because I was looking something up.
Oh.
Okay. The Blessed One made known his status more emphatically as follows. Okay. Na me acharyo ati. I have no teacher. Sadiso me na vijjati. One like me is not. Sadewa kasamim lokasmin. In the world of men and gods. Nati me patipugalo. None is my counterpart.
Upon this, Upaka wondered whether the Blessed One had gained arahantship. The Buddha replied, Aham hi araha loke. I indeed am the arahant in the world. Aham sata anutaro. The teacher with no peer. Ekomihi sama sambuddho. The sole Buddha, supreme enlightened. Siddhi Bhutto Sami Nibbutto. All passions extinguished, I have gained peace, Nibbana.
Iti buddhosmi. Buddho. Smi is from asmi. It's not sami. The a is. That's what happens in Thai as well. They put the a because of how they're not able to say sma. They sapmi. Siddhi buddhosmi. The Pali.
Bhante, where can we find this passage or these parts where the Buddha answers?
It's in different places. It's in the Pasarasi Sutta, Majjhima Nikaya 26. You can read that.
Thank you. Julie?
Sorry, what's the first part that I start at?
Upaka then asked.
Okay, thank you. Upaka then asked the Blessed One where he was bound for and on what purpose. To start in motion the wheel of law, I go to the Cassis town. In the world of blind beings, I shall beat the drum of the deathless, replied the Blessed One. Upon this, Upaka queried, by the manner in which you profess yourself, are you worthy to be an infinite conqueror? And the Buddha said, Madisa Vejina Onti Yepata Asawakayam Jita Me Papaka Dhamma Tasama Amupaka Jino. Those who are the conquerors who, like me, have reached the extinction of cankers. I have vanquished all thoughts, ideas, notions of evil, sinfulness. For that reason, Upaka, I am a Jina, a conqueror, a victorious one. Upaka belonged to the sect of naked ascetics under the leadership of Nataputta, who was addressed by his disciples as Jina, the conqueror. The Blessed One, in his reply, was explaining that only those who have really extinguished the cankers, eradicated the defilements, like him, are entitled to be called a Jina.
I think we can stop here and start next time with the new headline. Okay, then thank you everyone for reading. This was the study hour, and now we will move on to the Q&A if there are no questions from the Discord members who want to discuss something about the text. You can write your questions in the YouTube chat, also in the Discord chat, and we will try to answer as many as possible.
I see a raised hand by Sujai here on Discord.
Yeah, but I think we only allow people who have done the at-home course to come on the stage.
Yeah, if they can ask questions in text if they want.
I think there is a question in the chat from Sujai. Is austerities referring to the ascetics of that time period, like Ajivaka and Jain and other sects who were denouncing clothing?
That's one of the things they did, but there's also, this classic image of someone lying on a bed of thorns or bed of nails. There were lots of. They would walk on coals. It's where that idea came from. They would stand between two fires. to try and burn away the defilements. They would stop eating. This is a common thing. The Jains have this practice, sati, I think they call it. No, not sati. They have a name for it. The practice of starving themselves to death even. But yeah, lots of practices of torturing oneself.
Isn't
People would have put a weight, like a pierce their tongue and carry a weight on their tongue and that kind of thing. Standing on one leg, that sort of thing.
is it ascetic practices as well, or just rituals, acting like a dog or a cow?
Well, I guess that, I mean, I don't know if people actually, well, apparently they did, the texts say they did, so, but if it meant, it seems that it often meant engaging in practices that were unpleasant, like eating grass or walking on all fours, and in which case it would be quite torturous. Like a dog would only eat from a bowl or on the floor or something like that.
Ante, next question. During the Vipassana practice, I noticed that everything I do is a reaction to disliking. For example, adjusting a sitting position because I want to ease the pain on one side of the body, etc. So in daily life, outside of the practice time, I see everything I do is reacting to liking or disliking, and nothing more. So my question is it some form of cause and effect that I am experiencing?
Everything is cause and effect. That's not, I guess, quite true, but cause and effect is pervasive in all experiences. There's causes and conditions involved with, I guess, not all experience. It's more complicated than that, let's put it that way. But cause and effect is very much a part of our experience. And yes, the most important causes are things like greed and anger. So yeah, what you're seeing is cause and effect. Better to see that and live only one day than to live 100 days and not realize that there's results to our actions. And the significance of it is, of what you're talking about, is that we're unable to find peace. Our liking and disliking controls us. We're a slave to it. Unable to rest. Unable to find peace or rest. Constantly being pushed and pulled by greed and anger and delusion.
Ante, the next question is, how does one work with the perception of being an observer from the head? My body and the world generally seem more vivid and not self, but I still have this perception that I, or awareness, is in the head or looking from behind, so to speak.
You can note knowing, knowing, or feeling, feeling. It's kind of awarenesses, you can note them as well. Like when you're aware that you're in the head or you perceive something, it's like that. Just say knowing, knowing. Like aware or that sort of thing. Because that perception also is impermanent and also isn't always there. And that's what you're kind of missing when you say these sorts of things. You're not getting the fact that it's still just something that arises and ceases.
The next question, Bhante. Can we be mindful of the desire to be mindful?
If there is desire, you can note that as wanting, wanting. You have to be careful of words, because when you say wanting to be mindful, sometimes you're just saying that because you notice that you have an intention to be mindful or so on like that. You can still note it if you notice the intention, like I'm going to be mindful now, or hey, I'm going to try to be mindful. You can note that for sure. Because it is sort of wrong approach to say I'm going to be mindful. Much better to just be mindful.
The next question, Bhante. Is it clarity and/or bliss the goal of our practice?
Well, so these are just words, but clarity is the immediate goal, and the bliss of Nibbana is the ultimate goal. That it's hard to talk about Nibbana. Even bliss is not really perfectly accurate. But a word that we usually, the way we think of that word doesn't really encompass what is meant by Nibbana. And see, when the clarity leads to letting go, which leads to the experience of Nibbana. Clarity can't be said to be the ultimate goal because it's only useful for something better. It leads to the goal. But it's also not the practice, because you don't practice clarity, you practice mindfulness, which leads to the result of clarity. So therefore, clarity is the immediate goal. You can say it like that.
Bhante, the next question. When being mindful, I realized all things fall under pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So can I say pleasant when a pleasant thing arises and so forth?
It's not true that everything falls under pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. I mean, I guess you could say things that are neither pleasant nor unpleasant are neutral, but that's just the idea that you have. That's just your conception of it. You say, "Oh, there's no pleasure or pain, therefore it's neutral." But neutral we reserve for neutral feelings of calm, feelings of equanimity. But like when you experience the stomach rising, you could say, well, that's neutral, but neutral doesn't encapsulate it. It's the rising of the stomach or the pressure, the tension in the stomach. That's the reality of it. So saying neutral wouldn't be appropriate. Neutral, you would say, if the essence of it is neutrality. Just like when you feel happy, the essence of it is the happiness.
Bhante, the next question. Is it correct to say that if one is pursuing sensuality, that they have abandoned the Dhamma in that moment?
Yeah, that's one way of putting it, sure. I don't know, you could say they abandoned it. It's a bit harsh, but to say it like that, sure. You could say they're going against the Dhamma in that moment, for sure. But you don't want to be too harsh because it's a difficult thing to be always in line with the Dhamma. Only an enlightened being, only an arahant can be in line with the Dhamma every moment. So to say that someone has abandoned the Dhamma is not really true. It's kind of you're kind of falling into the delusion of self. Like there's a self that has abandoned the Dhamma. That's not really what's occurring. It's just habits, the habits of craving which lead you to crave and chase after sensuality. You can even be mindful of it, right? You can be mindful of it, which changes the direction and frees you from it. So it can be taken as an object of mindfulness, is the point. It's too harsh to say that it's abandoning. But it's against the Dhamma. I mean, it's just the fact that we're not enlightened, so we have bad habits, and it's just nature. You wouldn't be born a human being if you didn't have craving. You wouldn't be born at all.
The next question, Bhante. How does our practice of noting lead to uprooting ignorance? I have doubts that I'm only managing hindrances when they arise, but not doing what needs to be done to uproot the ignorance that causes them.
Well, the doubt is a hindrance, and so uprooting ignorance would be around facing that doubt, because without doing that, you won't come to an answer. If you use the doubt as a tool Like you say, I'm doubting, let's figure that thing that I'm doubting out. You're not practicing mindfulness. You have to take the doubt as an object. And then you see that the doubt is a hindrance, and that helps free you from the ignorance. Because the ignorance of the doubt, the problem with doubt, is that which causes doubt. That which causes the mind to waver and be unsure. When you face the doubt, then you're sure again. You don't have to worry about whatever it is you were doubting about, because your mind is now strong and sure in the fact that this doubt was a hindrance, and sure in the fact that you're experiencing doubt. So it's a good example. Like when you say to yourself, doubting, you have strength of mind, and you're free from doubt as a result, because you have no doubt that that is doubt, right? And that changes your perception of thinking, yeah, this thing I'm doubting about, what is the answer to that? To realizing, oh yeah, I'm just ignorant of the problem with doubting, and that's why I'm entertaining this doubt. When you see that, then you stop doubting. You don't make things more complicated to the point that doubt arises. You just take things simply as doubt is doubt, seeing is seeing, and so on. That's the beauty of the noting, is that it gives you a state of mind that is clear. Very simple, but it's that simplicity which allows the mind to be clear. Seeing is just seeing. So when you say seeing, you create that awareness. There's no ignorance. There's no delusion.
Bhante, the next question. Why does it feel as though there are two versions of me? One that experiences and notes each thought and emotion, and another that reflects and analyzes those experiences.
There is no one or two, there's only experience. So when there's reflection and analysis, that's not a self or a being. That's just an experience. And when there's experiencing and noting, well, that's the experiencing and noting. There's no being behind either of them. It's only those experiences. Seeing the disconnect between them is valuable. I mean, it helps you realize this over time. Eventually you start to see that there's not just two, there's many, and that each moment is a new being, so to speak, or each moment is a birth. And when the moment ends, it's death. We're born and die every moment.
Bhante, the next question. Is being an enlightened bhikkhu delaying parinibbana? Is it carrying a burden that is worse than being enlightened in a way where one gets to parinibbana early because of starvation?
But at that point, I don't think it's better or worse. It's just what is the way? What is the way that one has laid out in front of them? Because at that point, there's no choosing. There's one just doesn't incline to choose. One doesn't incline to live on. One doesn't incline to end one's life. In the time of the Buddha had a mission, and you could say that even today that mission carries on. And out of respect for the Buddha, we carry on that mission. So the Buddha had his students teach. He told them to teach because he had been asked to teach. So this is just not because anyone had any desire to teach, but the Buddha was asked, and so he accepted. And as a result, this meant telling his students to also teach, to also share the Dhamma. So this is why an arahant, well, one reason, I suppose, why an arahant would ordain, is out of respect for the Buddha, they would carry on his teachings. It's just what they would do. But there were arahants, and can be arahants, that don't ordain and just pass away. It's not about delaying, just about carrying on.
The next question, Bhante. How do I handle the obsessive urge to always choose the most skillful action? When I don't, it feels like I'm choosing wrong, as if morality must follow a strict total order.
With mindfulness, it takes training. It sounds like what you have is a serious issue. It's not something that you can solve with medicine, with a pill. It's not something that a doctor can fix for you. It's not even something that meditation can turn off for you. It's something that you have to train to change, and could even take lifetimes for you to change it. So, and the first is to be realistic and appreciate that this isn't something you can control. This isn't something you can really fix, not quickly anyway. And to try and learn to face it. Face it and use mindfulness to face it so that you don't follow it. And through training, through practice, eventually change your habit. Of course, if you have time to do courses in meditation, that's that's what mindfulness is designed to foster. We have an at-home course for people to take the first steps, and then we have intensive courses for people who want to train themselves more intensively.
Bhante, the next question. I often feel helpless in times when courage and skillful action is needed. What practice will help me?
Whatever you feel, just be mindful of it. Try and face it. Because, among other things, this will give you courage, will give you strength and clarity of mind. What you don't want to do is try and ignore your feelings or try and repress your feelings. So if you feel helpless, whatever that feeling is, just try and face it. It's the facing that gives you strength and courage. Don't try and control the feeling. Don't try to push them away. Don't try to fix them. Just learn to face them. I don't know if you've read our booklet on how to meditate, that's where you'd start. We have courses in learning how to be mindful, how to face things.
The next question, Bhante. I had a small insight that everything, including intentions, arise on their own and are not self. It feels a bit destabilizing because the capacity for controlling anything has reduced, but sometimes the mind reacts by saying, everything just arises on its own, so no need to practice, it will happen on its own. How should one understand and handle this tendency?
Just like anything else, you can't give them more importance than they deserve. It's easy to get overreact to these sorts of quote unquote insights. And the insights themselves are really just a byproduct of seeing clearly. They're not seeing clearly itself. So the insight itself, when you have an insight like, oh, this is this, this is this, your best bet is to just let it go. Note it and let it go. But you should treat all of these things as just experiences. That's why insight is a bad translation of vipassana. It's not really what the word means. It's misleading, and it leads to this idea that, oh, I had an insight, that must be vipassana, and it's not true. Vipassana means seeing clearly, and as a result of seeing clearly, you'll have these kind of insights, but that's not seeing clearly. It's because you see clearly. And if you keep seeing clearly, you'll have more of them. But if you focus on them, the moment where you saw something or had some insight, you'll stop seeing clearly, you'll stop being mindful.
The next question, Bhante. My mindfulness has increased, and it seems like I am placing less importance on formal meditation practice for this reason. Is this a hindrance in disguise?
Not necessarily a hindrance. Is it a good idea? Is it probably based on some hindrances to some extent, you know? It could be based on some hindrances to some extent. Formal meditation is challenging, and it's easy to get subtle aversion towards it because it's not natural. It's purposefully unnatural. The idea is to pull you out of your comfort zone. It's easy to become complacent and comfortable. Think, oh, I'm doing well, and then you start to align yourself towards those practices that are comfortable. So it's valuable to remember that mindfulness or vipassana in general is designed to be uncomfortable. Not unpleasant. It doesn't have to be unpleasant, but uncomfortable. In other words, it should create it should cause you to be disconcerted, cause you some discomfort, be uncomfortable, challenged. Its purpose is to challenge you. It's like weightlifting, sort of. Weightlifting will never be comfortable, and if the weights get comfortable, you know you're not lifting enough. That's the same idea. Oversimplified, but the same idea. And why I think that's a valuable simile is because of the misunderstanding about meditation. We think when we use the word meditation, it's often thought as something that should be pleasant, should be comfortable, should be soothing, right? It's how we use the word meditation, how we're taught that this word is used. Mindfulness is a training. Meditation in general is a training. And training is supposed to be challenging. If it's not challenging, you can't call it training. You're not training anymore. So that challenge is going to be uncomfortable. That's the nature of challenge. If it wasn't uncomfortable, it wouldn't be a challenge. So formal meditation is pretty much always going to be that, uncomfortable, challenging. If it's not, you're probably doing it wrong. I mean, think about it. If weightlifting was comfortable, wouldn't you say that? Wouldn't you say the same thing? Oh, I'm so comfortable lifting 5 pounds. No. It's not pushing your muscles. It's not challenging your body. It's not valuable. So this is, if it's not challenging your mind, it's also not valuable.
Bhante, the next question. When it comes to sensuality, can I say first, sensuality has arisen in me? After knowing, can I focus and be aware of wherever the physical aspect of the sensuality has arisen in the body?
That's a little too intellectual. It's not really the best way to say it. You should just note something simple, like if you like something, say liking. If you want something, say wanting. Just use simple words like that. Saying sensuality has arisen in me is way too cerebral. Complicated. Keep it simple. Don't know if you've read our booklet on how to meditate. That'd be a good place to start. If you have, then maybe interested in doing the at-home course. It's just my fallback answer to everything, right?
The next question, Bhante. In the text, is Nataputta Mahavira?
Niganta Nataputta is Mahavira, yes.
The next question, Bhante. How essential is it to do an intensive course? I've only done the at-home course, and while I did get benefits, there are still many bad habits and hindrances I have not overcome. I also struggle to meditate consistently because of these hindrances and bad habits.
Yeah, so our at-home course is an introduction. It's learning a lot of the technique, but it's not so much a use of that technique. I mean, it is. It's not trivial. Not to trivialize what you've done. Doing the at-home course is something that some people are actually unable to do. A challenge, for sure. But it's nowhere on the level of doing an intensive course. The intensive courses are the real courses. This at-home course is something that we made up to help people who are new to the practice. And in fact, it's been very valuable. It's a great way to bridge the gap between someone who has no knowledge or experience in mindfulness with what is expected from an intensive meditation course, which is a big challenge, right? To spend a month almost every day focused on mindfulness. Doing the at-home course is a great way to learn in the skills that will allow you to do that. But it's the doing the month, doing the time intensively that gains really real benefit. It's not just more benefit, it's a whole other level of benefit, really, where you can get real benefit, let's say. That's not fair. You get real benefit from the at-home course, stand by that. But let's put a deeper benefit, let's put it that way. It's on another level. So yeah, essential, you can't say it's essential because someone could listen to the Dhamma and practice for a few minutes and become enlightened if they had all the requisite faculties from their past lives. But generally speaking, it's pretty essential for most people. Without it, most people won't gain deep benefits of the practice. They'll be stuck on the superficial level, which is valuable, again, valuable. And in the long term can be the catalyst that many lifetimes from now gives you the base needed to become enlightened. But for benefits here and now that are sure, that are concrete, intensive courses are the way to go for sure.
Bhante, the next question. I've been encouraged to teach meditation, but I'm unsure how to introduce it. How can I present it so people benefit right away, while still gently pointing toward the deeper purpose of the Dhamma?
I would keep it simple. You don't water it down or sugarcoat it. And as a result, you don't teach everyone. But when someone is ready and willing and looking, you just teach the basics, how to walk, how to sit, how to be mindful. Just don't be discouraged when the majority of people don't pick it up. I mean, the majority of people are not looking for this and are not capable to appreciate the benefit of it. So, yeah, being encouraged to teach, I mean, I think it's good. Everyone can and really should share the Dhamma with those who are ready, willing, and able. But I think, like, even now, here we have a meditation center, we have rooms, and there's no one here. We have no meditators at the moment. Most of the time, you're not going to find people who are interested. So don't go looking for students, I guess is the point. The only reason you would be seeking the capacity to teach is if there were people who were looking to you for guidance. That's important because you don't want to go coddling them or badgering them or spoon feeding them. It's not good for either of you. Not a valuable experience. Door open, and if people want to come in, they're always welcome.
Bhante, the next question. Would the body postures and breath fall under neutral? Is that why we use it as an anchor to come back to?
It's the same person who said that all things are neutral or whatever, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. If it's so, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like they're really stuck on this idea if it's the same person, but regardless, body postures are body and breath is breath. They are what they are. Body postures and breath fall under mindfulness of the body. So neutral is not a word that you would use to describe them. But I guess the other part of your question, why do we use them, and whether it's because they're neutral. I mean, to some extent, yeah, it's reasonable to think that we use them because they're innocuous, or they're unassuming. They're not generally associated with hardcore emotions. Like we breathe so much that using it as an object of meditation, or we breathe so much that it's not really something that's going to trigger us. And why that's valuable is because it's a basic object. It's therefore something you can use when you're first learning how to practice. Why it makes a good first object. Or it's one of the reasons. It's not the only reason. Another reason is just that it's always there. As it's always there, it makes a good base object as well. But part of it is, the fact that it's just something innocuous, something not triggering. So when you train on that, eventually you can use it as a stepping stone to focus on the things that are triggering, like pain, thoughts, emotions, and so on.
Bhante, the next question. I let a mosquito suck my blood and chose not to scratch the itch. I just stayed mindful of it for 20 minutes until the itch went away. I then realized the impermanence. Is this good practice?
It's not practice. Practice is being mindful. So if you were mindful of it, I just stayed mindful of it. Well, if you noted it, but just letting a mosquito suck your blood is none of that is real, right? The experience is the experience of the feeling. So if you're mindful of the feeling, the itching or so on, saying to yourself, itching, itching, or if you like it or dislike it or worry about anything like that, noting those as well. That's good practice. Doesn't require a mosquito to bite you. But as far as realizing the impermanence, again, if it's just a realization, it's great, but not really the point. If you really see impermanence, the next moment is nibbana. So what that means is impermanence is the clarity. Seeing impermanence is the mind that is clear enough to let go, to see that nothing is worth clinging and to let go, because the next moment the mind lets go and there's nibbana. That's what we're working toward. When you see impermanence, I mean, great, you will see impermanence more and more clearly as you practice, for sure. Just don't hold on to it. Don't think of it as very significant. It's just a part of the path. I mean, it's reassuring that, hey, I'm on the right path because I'm seeing impermanence. I'm not seeing permanence. So I'm not caught up in the idea that these things are permanent or satisfying or controllable. See that again and again and again, and eventually it'll become clear and your mind will let go.
The next question, Bhante. Can Vipassana meditation be addictive? Lately, I find myself meditating with the intention of easing or letting go of physical pain and mental agitation, even though my ultimate goal is not to be reborn in the cycle of life by attaining the highest wisdom. Am I misusing Vipassana meditation, or is my immediate intention unwholesome?
So Vipassana meditation doesn't exist, and because it doesn't exist, it can't be addictive. And what I mean by that is it's not an experience. Experiences are the only thing that exists. So they are what can be addictive. You can be addicted to ease, you can be addicted to freedom from pain and mental agitation, basically addicted to calm and peaceful feelings, quietude and that sort of thing. You can be addicted to those. So if you're intending for that, I mean, it sounds like you've got a problem here. If you're intending to find ease, and to be free from physical pain and mental agitation, because let's be clear, when you say letting go of physical pain and mental agitation, probably what you mean is being free from them, which is not a great way to approach reality. Trying to be free from something. When we say letting go, we really mean letting come. More than letting go, honestly. Oh no, that's not true. Letting go of the good things, letting come the bad things is really what it is. So you don't let go of physical pain, you let come physical pain. You let come mental agitation. That's what letting go means. Because when we say letting go, it really means letting go of the good, the bad, the good things. Let the good things go, let the bad things come, and vice versa, of course. But the problem we have is not letting go of physical pain. The problem we have is letting physical pain come, right? Which is the opposite. Normally, when you say letting go of physical pain, you think of getting rid of it, having no more physical pain. But letting go of physical pain means letting it come. When you can face the pain and be at peace with it, be free from not being triggered by the pain, not being triggered by the mental agitation, that's when you've quote-unquote let go. So yeah, you're probably not, it's not that you're misusing Vipassana, it's that you're not really practicing Vipassana if you're inclining towards peaceful states, like may these peaceful states come and may I be free from the agitated states and that sort of thing. That's not facing, that's not letting go.
Bhante, the next question. I take medicine for OCD and I can't meditate properly. One time I could only meditate for 36 minutes, and another time I could only do it for 2 minutes. What should I do?
You have to work with your doctor. It's not great to, it's not very compatible. OCD medication is not very compatible with mindfulness, because mindfulness, you're trying to face your experiences. Any kind of medication for the mind is about trying to fix them, trying to alleviate them. I'm not saying you should go off your medication. I'm saying that that's just the reality of it, that you're doing something that's in conflict with the goal of mindfulness, which really just means that you have to be free from those states before you can hope to apply yourself in mindfulness. So the best way to do that is to work with your doctor to reduce the medication slowly, like get to the point where you're stronger and more able to face. I mean, the real problem is people don't want to face these things. They take medication as a means of not having to face their problems. And that's where it becomes a real issue. If you take the medication because you acknowledge that you're not able to face them, and then you take that as the base, you work towards being able to face them, weaning yourself off the medication. That's where you can find success. But that's where you have to go. If you're not going in that direction, you can't say, well, I'll just keep taking this medication and I'll become enlightened as well. It can't happen. It really just can't happen. Not just because of the medication, but also because of the attitude. You're not facing your experiences. Mindfulness is about facing things. And it's not to look down on people who take medication. It's just to point out the wrong attitude of never wanting to face your experiences. Acknowledging you're not able to, that's fine. Never wanting to, that's not the way of the Buddha. And I understand from some people things like OCD. It's just very, very difficult. I wouldn't say just go off your medication. You can't. You're not able to. But understand your path. If you're asking about your path is to reduce that medication and to get better at facing the things that you're not able to face that are causing you to take that medication.
The next question, Bhante. Does the mind have hidden intentions on a subconscious level, or is this a wrong idea? For example, we want to be focused in meditation, but the mind becomes distracted over and over again.
I mean, yes, if I'm going to entertain this, there is some level of like how reverse psychology works, where when you don't want to think about something, that's all you can think about, right? But no, it's reading too much into it to say that the mind has hidden intentions or so on. The mind is just complicated and messed up, mixed up, acting contrary to its intentions, and is triggered by emotions. Like when you want something, it triggers something in you. It's complicated. Triggers. I mean, even just wanting or not wanting, liking or disliking, agitates the mind, stresses the mind, and that stress has consequences. Like when you want to be focused, you're creating stress in your mind. That's the simplest explanation. Most likely the case that when you want to, like when a person wants to go to sleep, it's not mysterious as to why you can't go to sleep. Wanting to go to sleep is stressful. How could you possibly go to sleep? How could it possibly help to want to go to sleep? As soon as you stop wanting to go to sleep, it's very easy to fall asleep, as an example. But what I was really going to say is that it doesn't really matter. It's all valuable fodder for vipassana meditation, learning to see clearly about how your mind works. So seeing all of this is valuable. Seeing how being agitated at night stops you from going to sleep, wanting to go to sleep stops you from sleeping. Seeing that is valuable. Paying attention to it, facing it, and understanding it gives you valuable familiarity with how the mind works.
Bhante, the next question. If there is no self, then who will even experience the benefits? Should we be realizing that we are just a bunch of phenomenons and processes put together?
There is what there is. This isn't a theory or philosophy or something that has consequences. It's what's happening here and now. It is what it is. What's lacking is, I guess, a self or a soul. That's not a thing that actually exists. But there is what there is. You as a way of speaking, you will experience the consequences. It's not mysterious. It's not, something that requires theory. It's what happened. It's just that what that is just experiences. More importantly than isn't there a self, which the Buddha never said. He never said there isn't a self, is you holding on to the view of self. This is me, this is mine, this is under my control. It's that's the problem. That's what the problem is. The problem is any kind of attachment to this is me, this is mine, is giving rise to something that has no basis in reality, that is dissociated from the actual reality. When you look at reality as just experiences, you come much closer to what's actually there. And it gets simpler, it's simplified, and you gain the clarity to see that nothing is worth clinging to. You see that any view of self is just extraneous, it's superfluous. So this idea of non-self really concerns people. But it concerns people, people. It's just the concern is the important thing. If you're concerned about non-self, it's that concern that's interesting. It's that concern that is valuable. Concern that is a cause for stress and suffering.
Bhante, we've reached the end of the second hour, but there is one more question in the first tier. May we ask it?
Yes.
The question is the second foundation an emotion or a sensation?
It's neither, it's a feeling. Second foundation is feelings, pleasant feelings, painful feelings, calm feelings. Sensations are things like the sensation of the stomach rising and falling. Itching is a sensation, etc. But the second foundation is pleasant pleasure. So when you feel happy, that's Vedana. When you feel physical pleasure, that's Vedana. Or when you feel calm, that's Vedana. Or when you feel pain, that's Vedana. But Vedana and sensations are the difference. The difference between them too is you can feel Vedana, like you feel pain in the legs, and then you note the pain and the pain disappears, but you still feel the same pressure that caused the pain, or that gave rise to the pain. And that's a sensation. That pressure is a sensation. It's part of the same experience, but the pain arises and ceases independently, because the pain is actually mental. The physical is just a sensation, just the pressure, tension, or whatever. Calling them emotions is not really accurate, but they're sometimes associated with emotions, like pleasure can be associated with craving. When you want something, there can be pleasure associated with that moment of wanting, which is why wanting is so pernicious. And when you're angry or upset, there's pain associated with that. There's a painful mental feeling associated with that. But they're different. They're two different things, because you can have them independently. But you can't have anger or dislike without a painful mental feeling. Actually, they can't be independent. They only arise together, so never mind. But they are different.
So we've passed the 2-hour mark. We will end our study and Q&A there. Thank you so much to Bhante for your time and answering everyone's questions. We are extremely grateful.
Thank you all. Thank you for the volunteers who, without you, this wouldn't happen. As we've seen in the past weeks, we've had some hiccups. Without you guys, this wouldn't happen. So I appreciate that you're here doing this very much. I appreciate the effort that you've put in. May the benefit of that be to your welfare and promote you on your path, promote your practice on your paths. Thank you for everyone who had questions and to everyone who came to read. For those who had discussion, I appreciate the discussion. This is a big part of the group. For those of you who would like to be a part of the voice discussion, you have to first finish the at-home course in our tradition. Sounds kind of cultish when I put it like that, but this really is an in-group. We're very insular. We're not here to engage like interreligiously. This is what we do. If you're not interested in what we do, that's fine. We're not pushing it on anybody, but it's what we do. So the best way to keep it about what we do is to do it like this. If you've done the at-home course, we consider that you're in line with what we do, and probably the things you talk about are going to be in line with what we do. So that's that. But completely open to the public. Why we're doing it on YouTube is because we want to open it to everyone. We don't want it to just be the in-group. No. So we open it. You're all welcome to join, and appreciate all the questions. As I say every week, it's always pleasantly surprising to see more and more questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't think that I'm getting tired of the questions. I'm not. It's an honor and it's a privilege to have people ask you questions. Some monks never get asked questions, and they wish people would ask them questions. So I'm here to answer questions. Happy to answer questions. It's the best thing that I do as outreach for other people, is answering questions. I appreciate your questions. Thank you all for joining. Even if you didn't ask questions, don't be discouraged. Not having any questions to ask is often a sign that you're ready and you're on the right path. You don't have doubts, and you're in a good way. So I appreciate all of you as well, and appreciate the goodness that is involved with taking part in this great endeavor to study the Mahasi Sayadaw's teachings, and through it, the Buddha's teachings, learn about the Buddha's life and about his dispensation. So through the power of all that goodness and all the goodness that I have done on this day, I share the merit with you. You can appreciate that I have come here to, with whatever knowledge I have, to share that knowledge that I've gained from my teachers. So through the power of all that goodness as well, may all people involved here progress on the Buddha's teaching, be protected by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, find success and progress on the path, freeing them from greed, anger, and delusion, and sorrow, lamentation, and despair and suffering, finding only good things in this world, good things in the next world, and good things on a spiritual level on the path to Nibbana. The power of all this goodness, may you all find peace, happiness, and freedom from suffering. May all beings be free from suffering. Sadhu.
Sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu.